Why is, for a lot of LGBT people, sexuality such a big part of their identity? Well, I'd wager being in a community makes finding friends that accept you much easier, and also queer dating isn't exactly easy either. So you're more likely to find people interested in you at events and groups with a lot of queer people in them. As an asexual, I actually see everyone do that. Not just LGBT+ people. Turn on the radio, any station, and listen for half an hour. How many songs are about sex, relationships, etc.? Or turn on the TV and watch some commercials. How often do you see couples in commercials that don't necessarily need them? Also, I think it's a sign of community. We get pushed away from the masses, even though we didn't do anything. So when we find a community that accepts us, we adjust to it, and if the norm doesn't want us, we reject the norm. 2. Boys can like boys. Girls can like girls. Or you can just like no one. It proves that some of the rules imposed by society aren't as rigid and universal as we believe. And this, in turn, causes us to question the other rules. With the heteronormative model invalidated as universal truth, all other rules become brittle, including beauty standards, acceptable hobbies, and so much more. It's a perfect liberation of the human mind, which allows people to comfortably explore new avenues and try out new things. Once you accept that it's okay to be who you are, you feel more comfortable exploring who you really are. Straight people may not flat out be saying, "I'm straight," or "I'm heterosexual," but that doesn't mean that their sexuality isn't a big part of their identity like it is for LGBT people. They talk about relationships, sex, etc. just as much, minus the things and issues that are specific to LGBT people. It's just less noticeable because it's seen as normal and accepted. I don't know this friend of yours, but I don't think her whole identity or personality necessarily changed. Maybe she just feels more free to express it. It might be easier for her to be surrounded by people who are less likely to be judgmental, more likely to be understanding, etc. It's probably also easier to meet potential partners that way. And if she's already openly someone that society sees as unusual or weird, it might be easier for her to embrace another, unusual, interests. Like non-mainstream, I assume, fashion, or a degree that most people look down upon. Well, when I came out as trans, I lost family and friends, but I didn't lose the queer ones. It's easier and you run less risk of harassment. Okay, but did she change who she is? Or did she start questioning her life choices after the coming out and decided to change her appearance and behavior to match who she was on the inside all along? Because I know it can seem like I changed after my coming out. But in reality, I just decided to stop pretending to be someone else to fit in better. Because hey, I won't ever be seen as normal anyway now. So I might as well give up. Just anecdotal evidence though. A lot of people lean into the LGBT community because it's safer and more understanding. That's why it can seem like it's their whole personality now. It's a response over years of LGBT-phobic mistreatment and loneliness. I think LGBT people tend to be more open about their sexuality because they figure they're going to be demonized no matter how much or little they talk about sex. So they might as well just do whatever they want. Their personality didn't change, they stopped hiding who they were. Sexuality is a big part of straight people's identity as well. You just don't notice it because it is considered normal. When a guy talks about dating girls, you don't bat an eye. You don't even think about it. But when a guy talks about dating other guys, it stands out to you and it stays with you. You may think gay people talk about their sexuality too much and find it obnoxious, but straight people talk about it just as much, if not more. You just don't even realize. A mix of things. A. You don't notice the ones who don't. So there's selection bias. Unless you actively ask them out. Your bi coworker is just Bob from accounting to you. B. LGBTQ+ are still very heavily discriminated against. C. Sexuality is still a pretty big part of people's lives. Suddenly a lot of things in their lives seem to resolve around their sexuality. There is still quite a lot of bigotry. Even if you live in a relatively accepting area, they likely still get negativity. They might not get it publicly, so you wouldn't be aware of it, but it still happens. And they're also going to be very aware of the fact that other LGBTQ+ people do. And even putting the bigotry aside, it can be a confusing and difficult experience to figure out. It can be nice to fit into a community that actually understands. But for some reason over the years it seems her complete identity changed. She got into the LGBT scene. Completely different hair and clothing style. Changed her master to gender studies. Got more LGBT friends. Etc. etc. So I am curious why that happens. I don't think it's too surprising that a relatively big transformative change in someone's life can end up getting a pretty big focus. It's identity, not sexuality. Usually homophobic people, not saying you are the ones that equate it. I have a few LGBT friends and we never talk about sex. Isn't everyone trying to affirm their sexuality in dome capacity? Why is it only an LGBT thing to you? Because the straight community has made it a big part of their life. For a very long time anyone who was LGBT was viewed as less than. Often to the point of being outright murdered for who they were. Being straight has never been such a powerful thing that people were killed for it. No one cares if you say you're straight. People only care if you're LGBT. So yeah, it's a big part of who they are. Regardless if they want it to be or not. My cis straight colleagues talk about sex all the time. I, the gay trans guy, have to ask them if they are still 13 years old. Because they never shut up about it. You just don't notice the cis straight sexuality shoves in your face all the time. Almost all songs, movies, advertising, etc. are cis straight relationships. The LGBT scene you talk about is a place where they can go to without the fear of getting judged, discriminated or assaulted just because they are LGBT. That isn't often the case outside of it. Even with accepting people, like you claim to be. Because you are judging her for being too visible LGBT. Because the people who hate us for it define our entire existence by it. In a social, sexual species like ours, not one person can escape what their sexuality is. But people who aren't straight are held to a completely different standard when it comes to practicing that sexuality. If people didn't hate, beat, and kill us over it, we wouldn't need to call attention to the thing that makes us a target. I get how that seems contradictory. But remember, this is pretty new. For hundreds of years we hid and lied and killed ourselves over being shamed and not being able to live and love as freely as straight people. The only other option was to be loud and basically say, "Hey, I'm gay. I refuse to feel bad about it, and if I die tomorrow it's because that asshole murdered me for it." As well as the concept that the reason why it was so easy for people to hate us was because it was easy for the bigots to make up whatever lie they wanted about us and no one would stand up and say they were wrong. And they didn't have examples in family or friends that they could relate to that would prove they were wrong. It was essential to show the straight people that gay people could be just like anyone else. This is what normalization is. And to add on to what someone else said, we also needed to find other people that were like us for safety and the comfort of community. Because most straight people have no clue what it's like to go through your entire life being hated and hurt by others for this small part of yourself that you didn't choose and can't change. just because of their damn superstitions and lies. We needed to be able to easily find support systems made up of people that had gone through the same pains and struggles we did, that could understand us and offer help based on that shared experience. We're a small minority. For one thing, we don't suddenly have a lot of friends. Are you kidding? For way too many of us, it's not like arriving at a party. Some kids still get kicked out of their home and once homeless. All manner of bad things can happen. For those of us that are accepted, coming out is only the beginning of understanding and exploring who we are in our own skin, living our authentic lives. In many countries, it's still illegal to be gay or to have gay sex punishable by prison time and/or death. Imagine how you would feel if it were illegal to be straight. Imagine how you'd feel getting judged by strangers, refused service by businesses, stalked by police, and hunted down by mobs. Now imagine finding others like you and being allowed to live openly as yourself. You'd still be you, but you'd still identify as straight. Whether it means finding new friends or finding out you like new, different styles of clothing that are popular among straight people, etc. Until it makes no difference from a legal and social standpoint around the world what a person's sexuality is. There will always be a need to come out and find one's own tribe and family. You're talking about one example here, but I know this is a common sentiment. I feel like some normal conversations are often seen different when done by straight versus gay people. Like dating, marriage, or wanting to have children. In my experience, there are political aspects to those subjects. Just because I am a lesbian, I have to think about things they don't. Like where and how I can date that would be safe. Or if my marriage to my wife gives me the same rights as a straight marriage gets. Which it didn't in Germany until 2017, and concerning having children we are definitely discriminated against. Or the repercussions my identity will have for our children. My rights are under constant threat. The ones I have are recent, and in some instances I have less rights than my straight sister. I can only imagine how all this would affect a trans person, where their whole existence is politicized. In my case, it's only my sexuality. I don't think we are the ones making it our personality, but the circumstances. My sexuality plays a big role in mundane everyday thought processes. Not because I want to, but because that is the reality I live in, and often when I try to talk to my straight friends or family how discriminating some aspects of our laws are, they'll say something like, yeah, but it isn't easy for straights either. Why does it matter? It's likely reactionary to begin attacked. When you have people demonizing you for being that way, you're going to come back with "this is who I am and I'm not going to be ashamed of it." Literally everyone does this. If you make friends, it's almost always because you like the same things or think the same. I mention my wife in conversation with friends a lot. I don't think it's over the top. But also my whole personality isn't my wife and how attracted to her I am either. Moderation is good.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. TooAfraidToAsk is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.